Week 3 bonus video 2. Hey, presets are very much a key to fast and efficient image processing. It's how we get things done, and it's how we get things done right and with consistency, fast and effectively. I'm going to start this week by helping some of my Lightroom users realize that they've probably spent lots of money buying some specialty presets for use only in Lightroom. And or if you're an advanced Lightroom user, maybe you know how to create your own presets within Lightroom. I'm going to teach you how to create your own presets in Bridge, how to save them in Bridge, how to export them from Bridge, how to re-import them from Bridge. But I'm also going to show you Lightroom users an easy way to take a preset from Lightroom and get it to Bridge. There are several ways to do that, but most of them are really cumbersome, as are most things in Lightroom, in my opinion, overly cumbersome. But this is a very quick way. I'm only going to show you the quick way to get your Lightroom presets into Bridge forever. All right, so if you're not a Lightroom user, take a break, have a drink, go to the bathroom. But if you are a Lightroom user, lean forward, take a deep breath, and learn. I'm in Lightroom. I've selected one image. This is one of my son's jewelry photos. You'll learn more about that when we talk about focus stacking in bonus video 5 this week. But for now, I'm going to grab one of Jacob Burress's photos, and I'm going to apply in Lightroom a Lightroom preset. If you're a Lightroom user, you're probably very familiar with this, but here I am. I'm in the presets in my develop panel, and I'm going to go down and pick. And now you notice that when I hover, I'm not clicking, but when I hover, it automatically previews what it would look like if I ran black and white stark. If I really want to set it, I click it. You know that. I'm going to click it. There. I've set black and white stark. Here's the trick. It answers a couple of questions. How do I take images from Lightroom, who's not married to Bridge or Photoshop, and import it directly as a non-destructible image in Photoshop? And I'm going to do that by going to the photo menu. This is the usual way I would use this trick. I would go to the photo menu and I would say edit in, and not just Photoshop, but say open as a smart object in Photoshop. Now you can use this to get your images from Lightroom in this non-destructive environment of Lightroom. And you can save this image, your baby. You could save this baby as you go into the jungle of Photoshop. If you want to learn more about that, take my BPSOP real Photoshop course. But here you go. You're taking your baby into the jungle of Photoshop where things are destructible. You can lose data and so on. Long story short, that's what I would typically use this for. But right now I'm using it in order to beg, borrow, and steal presets from Lightroom into Bridge. Here we go. Open as a smart object in Photoshop. Now, Photoshop is going to kick into gear. And I want you to notice I have a smart object, a protected baby here in Photoshop. There's my image. It looks like black and white stark did, but notice in my layers panel, that layer has this interesting icon in Photoshop in the bottom right hand corner. That tells me that my baby is wrapped in bubble wrap. It's protected in a little steel baby cage. No harm can befall this baby in Photoshop. That's what it means. Now, if you have a smart object in Photoshop, it retains a link to its original parent, in this case, Lightroom, but only sort of, and it drives me crazy. This is another pet peeve I have with Photoshop's relationship with Lightroom. And this is not Lightroom's fault. It just is something that happens. When I double click on that little bubble wrap icon, it takes me back into Lightroom? No. It takes me into Adobe Camera Raw, the bridge version of re-editing in Adobe Camera Raw. Now stop. A moment ago, we were in Lightroom, and I saw all the editing sliders. Let's pay attention to a couple of these names, okay? Color, black and white, white balance, temp, tint, exposure. I could keep reading, but here's what I want you to notice. All of these words, all of these sliders exist identically in Adobe Camera Raw's editor, the one that Photoshop just sent me to. They exist. And when you're in Photoshop, even though it came from Lightroom and you double click it, Photoshop does not send you back to the rebel Lightroom. No, Photoshop sends you to his bride, the Camera Raw editor, as it shows up in Bridge. Black and white, notice. Basic sliders, auto, temperature, tint, exposure, all the same sliders, but now they are appearing, they are manifested in their Adobe Camera Raw, not their Lightroom versions. Now you might not think that's a problem. I find it a nuisance for two reasons. Number one, that's not what I saw in Lightroom. That's just a visual nuisance. But number two, the keyboard shortcuts are mostly all remapped. They are not the same. If I hit the letter K in either Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, it takes me to the adjustment brush. That's one of the keyboard shortcuts that is the same. But if I try to do something called white balance, in a Camera Raw, I just hold the Shift key and click something. Boom. Shift click is white balance. Not so. Yeah, Lightroom version, I have to hit W. Oh, I'm not in Lightroom. In Lightroom, I have to hit W for the light. Here's the problem. Adobe cannot even be consistent with their own keyboard shortcuts. It drives me mad. And so even though you begin with a file who started its life in Lightroom, when you open it in Photoshop as a smart object and then want to re-edit it in the parent, it will not send you back to the actual parent if that parent was Lightroom. Why? Because Lightroom is a rebel. I'm sorry. Don't shoot me. I'm just the piano player. If you're in Bridge and you open as a smart object, you go over to Photoshop and you come back to Bridge. You get to see the Adobe Camera Raw shuffling back and forth. No keyboard. No third set of keyboard shortcuts that you have to memorize. Camera Raw, Photoshop, and Lightroom. You just memorize Photoshop and Bridge. How many keyboard shortcuts do you want to memorize? By the hundreds. All right, I'm gonna cancel. But remember, back to our regularly scheduled programming. How do I get a preset from Lightroom into Adobe Camera Raw or into Photoshop, into Bridge? We started in Lightroom and we applied a preset. We went and we said, edit, open, smart object in Photoshop, and here's all you do. In Photoshop, if you go to the filter menu and go to the Camera Raw filter, now this is not Adobe Camera Raw, it's a fake, but it's a really good fake. I'm going to steal the preset from Lightroom. Camera Raw filter. I'm going to go look at my presets. Now, a shortcut in the Camera Raw filter or the real Camera Raw is Shift P. I am now looking at my presets for either the Adobe Camera Raw filter or Adobe Camera Raw, the real deal. And as I'm looking at this image, everything about it in the presets panel, when I ask for a new preset, notice where I went. Presets panel, little dot, dot, dot. I want to create a preset. This is everything that was done to that file in Lightroom via the preset. I think it was called Black and White Stark. Guess what? It's now mine. In Bridge, in Photoshop, in Adobe Camera Raw, the real, or Adobe Camera Raw, the filter, I now have that preset. That's the easy way to copy presets and keep them in Bridge, Adobe Camera Raw, or Photoshop. Let me cancel. Let me close. Let me go back and open Lightroom and show it to you again in real time. Grab a pencil. You can always hit rewind, I realize, but I'm going to show you what this looks like in real time. Okay? In real time, I open an image in Lightroom and I decide I want to apply any particular preset. Right? I'll go pick one here, whatever, LRPAD, that's a crazy name. Poppy. In real time, select the preset in Lightroom, Photo, Edit in, Photoshop as a smart object. There's the image loaded. Filter menu, Camera Raw filter. I'm going to do Shift P, same keyboard shortcut. Shift P, and I'm going to create a new preset. I can do click on the three dots, create preset, or notice Shift Command P on Mac. Shift P was to see the preset list. Command Shift P is to save a preset. On the PC, that's Shift P to see the list. Control Shift P to create a new preset. So I'm going to create a new preset. Let me call it LRPAD, Poppy. Everything about it gets stored. And I'm going to say, okay, cancel, and I'm out. I'm going to quit Photoshop. Back to Bridge. Now in Bridge, if I have another image, I'm going to do Command R to edit in Camera Raw, or edit in Camera Raw, the real Camera Raw. Shift P, notice that's the same shortcut as Photoshop. Shift P. And when I get here, look what's waiting for me. LRPAD Poppy. And I can apply the checked items that I saved with that preset when I saved it. You can check and save those. Now, when you go to save your own preset, notice in Photoshop or Bridge, there are certain things you can choose to keep or not. It's up to you. Which of the settings do you want to save into that preset? It doesn't have to be everything. It could be everything. It could be none of them, and then just a couple. Okay, that's up to you. That's up to you. I'm just showing you the difference there. Okay, I'm going to grab all of these presets, which I don't like in Bridge. I'm going to click on it in my preset, user presets, and notice right next to it there's a trash can. You're out of here. Burnt sepia, you're gone. LRPAD Poppy, goodbye. A quick way to get rid of those. Now, I do have a presets ... You saw that in Photoshop, and you also see it in Bridge. And if I tap that, you're going to see create a preset, manage them, hide partially compatible presets. If you're using a newer version of the Camera Raw editor in Lightroom or Bridge or Photoshop, they've made some changes to some sliders. And so some old presets may or may not come across. And so you can ask for which ones are those that are going to give me grief. Show me the ones that may not work fully. Show me that list. In Lightroom, you can do this too. But I'm going to use it for this. Check it out. How did I get here? I went Presets Panel. That was Shift P. I went ... under Presets. Pay attention. And I said Import Profiles and Presets. Import them. From where? Well, here's one called Import Rick's Presets. And if I were a decent human, I would already create a ton of presets and not charge you extra money for it. I would just give them to you. Do you want them? Because if you want them, let me know and I'll email you those presets so that you can do what I just did. You can start with mine. I don't know if they'll be useful to you, but I've used them. I got a ton of them. You can have them. These are global presets. Everything I've done to this whole photograph gets stored into the preset, minus local edits like brushes here or there, or a gradient here or there. But these are the global, usually the basic panel presets plus that got stored in these. You may have mine. You may have mine. Each one of those does something different. Okay, so you notice that I just went import profiles and presets, and I did import Rick's presets. Cancel. You can do the same. Here under import Rick's presets, I'm going to right click on import Rick's presets, and I'm going to say, I don't know what I was thinking. Delete those. So you can also delete a set of presets. You can import someone else's presets in total, one at a time if you want, or in total from Bridge in Camera Raw. Or you can delete sets. I'm going to right click on the panel again and say import. And I'm going to re-import Rick's user presets. So I also save my presets as a backup. I right click, I export them. So I have a backup. I don't want to lose these. But that same export can be used to share with friends or other photographers. And they would then import them. That's pretty simple. Take a deep breath.